In my last video, I needed to create an outline shader to better sell my 3D pixel art effect. But while I was making it, I stumbled upon a very silly bug that I think looks pretty cool. So today, I'm going to try and fit 3 different game types around it to see what potentials it has and how it can be improved. Welcome everyone to Proof of Concept, the show where we answer game dev questions that no one even asked. This is the reverse outline episode. First thing first, how does an outline shader even work? Well, there are many ways to do it, and I will leave you a link to a great article by Alexander M. on the topic, but in my case, I'll be using a very simplified form of edge detection on the scene depth map. For every pixel on the screen, I will be sampling the scene depth texture, and I will calculate the difference from the depth at the 4 adjacent pixels. Now, if the depth difference is above some threshold, I will draw the outline in an arbitrary color. Otherwise, I'll just draw the camera's color buffer. But Mali, you said you got a silly bug, so what is that? Well, since I'm using the alpha channel in the shader to determine where to draw the outline, what happened was that I swapped where I draw the outline and the color, obtaining this sort of reverse outline effect. And I haven't really seen this effect used a lot, so I either found a hidden gem or there's a reason for it. So I thought, why not try and play around with it? Kinda like a proof of concept. He really did it! He said the name of the show! You might not remember or even know Asteroids, but this simple game from 1979 looks like the perfect 2D counterpart to our reverse outline effect. Now, there are a few quirks to recreating asteroids in 3D. First, of course, we would need a 3D model of an asteroid and a ship, but luckily, we have the internet for that. Don't mind if I do! Okay, now we need to figure out how to make the player and the asteroids wrap around the screen in 3D. What I'll do is define like a big cubic box, and when any object travels beyond its bounds, I'm just gonna teleport it back to the other side, keeping track of whether that happens on the X, Y, or Z axis. And before I implement anything else, let's see what it looks like. Okay, well, I think we perfectly recreated the vibes of the original game. The gameplay kinda sucks. It's extremely hard to tell how far we are from things, and it's impossible to tell where the asteroids are coming from. I'm starting to get a feeling they might not have meant for this to be a 3D game after all. You know what? Let's scrap that. I know, scrapping a game idea might seem like a failure, but here at Proof of Concept, it's actually great progress. The main limitation of this effect is that we can only rely on geometry for details or spatial references. We have no textures, no shadows, no fog. We have nothing. So, in an open space game like 3D Asteroids, we're left in an open void without any directions. Look at this screenshot from one of my favorite childhood games, Galaxy on Fire, also set in space, and now check out what it would look like if we could only rely on geometry for detail. So, let's work around this limitation. If we cannot have the game play out in an open space, we can make something like an escape room game. And making an escape room game is pretty easy. Or rather, the technical aspect of making an escape room game proof of concept is kinda easy, let's be honest. I am going to set up interactable items like doors, drawers, or even collectibles. And all of these items will depend on their own condition that will check whether the interaction is allowed. So by recycling and reusing the same base code, we can make it so the fridge doors will always open or close, or items can be picked up and added to our inventory. And we can also make it so the exit door will only open if we have picked up the right key. Now from the footage you can totally see that this kind of game is much more suited for this effect. The denser geometry makes the level feel so much less disorienting than it was before. Unfortunately, after making the second game, I realized that this effect kinda gets old pretty quickly, but that's kind of what we set out to demonstrate. Because here at Proof of Concept, we're all about iterating and learning new things. Speaking of learning new things, this episode of Proof of Concept is sponsored by Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons on math, data analysis, programming, and AI. Brilliant helps you build critical thinking skills through problem solving, not memorizing. So, while you're building real knowledge on specific topics, you're also becoming a better thinker. Brilliant also helps you build knowledge in minutes a day. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. It's the opposite of mindless scrolling. Brilliant's growing number of programming courses are a great way to build foundations. Learn real-world applications and strengthen your game dev skills. Learn essential coding elements from loops to variables to nesting and conditionals. Get familiar with Python and start building programs on day one with a built-in drag-and-drop editor. And most importantly, develop your mind to think like a programmer and begin writing complex programs to build great games and apps. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/malimakes. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description. You will also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thank you Brilliant for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. Don't get me wrong, I really like the way the reverse outline looks. I would not be making this video if not, but giving up textures and shading for detail is a big price to pay for some fancy outlines. So to answer the question that we posed at the beginning of the video, I either found a hidden gem or there's a reason why no one's using it. I would say that the scales are kinda balanced on this one. While the novelty of the effect will impress outline shader enjoyers, such as myself, the gameplay implications are full of compromises that need to be balanced with much stronger arms than I could in the little time that I had for this one. If you think you can make it work though, please let me know. I will drop the Unity shader graph in the Discord, and even if you're using a different engine, the effect should be pretty easy to replicate. When I sent the initial screenshot on the Discord, someone said that the effect reminded them of Undertale, and I can kinda see it with all of the dark negative space in the image. But I am not remaking Undertale. Instead, I'll try and match the vibes for what was overwhelmingly the most popular genre suggested by people who I showed the effect to: horror. To try and stay true to the classic Slenderman horror game look, on top of the reverse outline effect, I think we can get away with just adding some simple post-processing. So let's apply some bloom, then add some lens distortion, and finally a nice round and centered vignette. So I put up some terrain with vegetation and other assets I had lying around, and some pizza slices for the player to collect. And here is what it feels like. I think we finally nailed it. And who would have thought after all of this work that the effect that basically just makes the screen pitch black would pair pretty well with horror game vibes? I guess this video could have been an email. So yeah.